Life doesn't reward bursts of effort. It rewards persistence. Most people fail not because they lack talent, but because they lack the discipline to show up every single day. You can have dreams as tall as mountains, but if you are not consistent, those dreams will remain clouds, beautiful to look at, but impossible to touch. Consistency is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. It is not glamorous, it is not exciting, but it is the foundation of greatness. And today, I want to share with you why forcing yourself to be consistent, especially when you don't feel like it, will transform your life. Identity is not something you declare with words, it is something you prove with repeated actions. Every small decision you make, every habit you keep, is a signal to your mind. This is who I am. The truth is, you are not what you do occasionally, you are what you do consistently. Your identity is like a house, and every action is a brick in that house. One brick alone means nothing, but lay one brick every day, and in time you have built something unshakable. When you consistently wake up early, even when you don't feel like it, something begins to shift inside you. At first, it feels like a battle, a war between the old self that seeks comfort and the new self that demands growth. But with every act of repetition, you carve a path in your brain, a pattern that says, I am disciplined. The same is true with writing, exercising, studying, or any craft you want to master. At first, it is just an effort. Over time, it becomes your nature. Psychologists call this self-concept reinforcement. It means your actions create your identity, and your identity shapes your future actions. It is a cycle, a powerful one. If you go to the gym for one day, nothing changes. If you write one page, nothing changes. But if you repeat these actions for 90 days, even when the voice in your head says, skip today, something fundamental happens. Your brain rewires itself. You no longer just do the action, you become the person who does it. The gym is no longer a place you go, it becomes a part of who you are. Writing is no longer something you do on weekends, it becomes your language, your self-expression, your identity. There's a story of a man who understood this truth deeply. James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, shares an example of someone who lost over 100 pounds without setting a massive, overwhelming goal. This man did not start by promising to work out for hours every day or to change everything overnight. His goal was far simpler: show up at the gym every single day, even if only for 5 minutes. 5 minutes seems insignificant, almost laughable, but that was not the point. His aim was not fitness at first. It was identity. He knew that the hardest part of transformation is not the act itself, but the decision to show up. By showing up every day, even for a few minutes, he told his brain, this is who I am now. And that changed everything. Over time, the 5 minutes became 10, then 30, then an hour. The weight began to fall off. But more importantly, the weight of old habits and old identity fell off first. He did not just lose fat, he shed the belief that he was someone who could not change. This is the secret most people miss. We think we need success to feel consistent. We think, once I achieve something big, then I'll be disciplined. But the truth is the opposite. You don't become consistent because you succeed. You succeed because you become consistent. Success is not an event. It is a reflection of who you have become through countless, invisible, repetitive acts that no one claps for. The applause comes later. The transformation happens quietly in the shadows of your daily choices. So, when you force yourself to repeat an action, when you wake up early even when it feels pointless, when you write even when no one will read it, when you go to the gym even when you are tired, you are not just doing an activity. You are building a character. You are shaping an identity. And that identity will lead you to a life that others will call extraordinary, but you will know it was nothing more than the accumulation of ordinary acts done with relentless consistency. Motivation is a fleeting guest. It comes dressed in enthusiasm, full of promises, but it rarely stays long enough to build anything of value. We wait for it like a traveler in a desert waits for rain, hoping, yearning, almost praying that it will come and quench our thirst for action. But rain in the desert is rare, and so is motivation. If you choose to rely on it, you will spend your life standing still, waiting for something that may never arrive. The truth is far more uncomfortable most of the time. You will not feel like working. You will wake up in the morning and your mind will whisper 1,000 reasons to delay. It will tell you, not today. Rest a little longer. Do it tomorrow. This is the nature of the human mind. It seeks comfort, not challenge. It loves familiarity, not uncertainty. And yet, progress demands the opposite. It demands that you act when every fiber of your being resists. It demands that you step forward when your emotions plead for retreat. This is where discipline enters, not as a gentle suggestion, but as an unyielding force. Discipline is not concerned with feelings. It does not ask for permission from your mood or your circumstances. It is a firm voice that says, do it anyway. And this voice, when obeyed, becomes the foundation of consistency. Because the truth is simple. Greatness does not belong to those who wait for the perfect moment. It belongs to those who create it through relentless action, regardless of how they feel. Consider the life of an elite athlete. From the outside, their success seems like magic. Effortless grace on the field, record-breaking times, flawless execution. But look closer, and you will see a reality most people overlook: discipline. Do you think they wake up every day brimming with excitement to train? Do you imagine they love every grueling session, every aching muscle, every early morning when the world still sleeps? No, they feel the same resistance you do. They have days when they would rather stay in bed, days when motivation is nowhere to be found. But they rise anyway. They train anyway. Because they understand a truth that few ever grasp. Discipline is the price of greatness. Feelings are temporary. They are visitors passing through. Today you feel inspired, tomorrow you feel tired, and the day after you feel defeated. If you build your life on this unstable foundation, your progress will rise and fall like the tide, never moving beyond the shore. Discipline, on the other hand, is a resident. It does not leave when things get hard. It does not vanish when you are tired or uninspired. It stays. It anchors you when the storm of emotion threatens to pull you away from your purpose. There is a profound strength in doing what must be done, not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. Every time you act without waiting for motivation, you take power back from the chaos of emotion. You remind yourself that you are not a slave to moods or circumstances. You are the master of your own destiny. And that mastery does not come in grand moments of inspiration. It comes in the quiet, often painful, moments when you choose discipline over comfort. So stop waiting for the perfect wave of motivation to carry you forward. It will not come when you need it most. Instead, build the strength to move when the waters are still, when the sky is gray, when nothing inside you wants to try, because that is when it matters most. Anyone can act when they feel like it. The world is full of such people. Few act when they don't. Those few are the ones who shape history, who build empires, who turn dreams into reality. Do not be deceived by the illusion of motivation. It will visit you, yes, but it will also abandon you. Discipline will not. Make it your companion, your guide, your constant. For in the end, The world does not reward those who start with excitement. It rewards those who finish with persistence. People often dream of making great leaps, of doing something extraordinary in a single moment of brilliance. They imagine transformation happening overnight, like a sudden miracle that turns all their struggles into triumph. But life rarely works that way. More often than not, the extraordinary is built from the ordinary. The greatest achievements are born not in bursts of effort, but in the quiet repetition of small, deliberate actions over time. This is where most people falter. They overestimate what can be accomplished in a week, yet they underestimate what can be accomplished in a year, or even a decade. They start with enthusiasm, determined to change everything at once. They set massive goals, believing that intensity will carry them to success. And for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, they keep up. But eventually, the weight of that intensity becomes too heavy. The energy fades, the motivation evaporates, and they stop. Then they wonder why success feels so far away, why life never seems to change in the way they imagined. The truth is, success is almost never the result of a single dramatic action. It is the result of accumulation. Small steps repeated consistently create an unstoppable force. One drop of water is nothing. You can watch it fall and see no impact at all. But let those drops fall over time, and they carve canyons. They reshape landscapes. That is the power of small, consistent actions. They seem insignificant in the moment, but given enough time, they become monumental. There is a story that perfectly illustrates this truth. The story of the British cycling team. For nearly a century, they were considered the worst professional cycling team in the world. They had never won the Tour de France. In fact, bicycle manufacturers didn't even want to sell to them because their reputation was so poor. Then something changed. Instead of trying to overhaul everything at once, they focused on what they called marginal gains. Small, 1% improvements in every area. They looked at the tiniest details, the design of the bike seat, the fabric of the uniforms, the type of pillows riders slept on. None of these changes seemed revolutionary on their own, but when combined, they created a transformation. Within 5 years, the British team dominated the Olympics. They won the Tour de France not once, but multiple times. What was once the weakest team became a powerhouse, all because of small, consistent improvements. This is the lesson most people ignore. They chase after giant leaps, while neglecting the tiny steps that would have taken them further than they ever imagined. They believe progress has to be dramatic to be meaningful. But progress is not about drama, it is about direction. Every small action you take toward your goal is a vote for the person you are becoming. When you read for 10 minutes a day, you cast a vote for knowledge. When you exercise for 20 minutes, you cast a vote for health. When you save a little money, you cast a vote for financial freedom. Alone, each action seems trivial, almost laughable. But combined over weeks, months, and years, they become the very foundation of transformation. There is another reason why small steps matter so much. They are sustainable. Anyone can push themselves hard for a day, a week, or even a month. But few can sustain that intensity for a lifetime. The secret to lasting change is not to do more in a short time. It is to do less consistently over a long time. That is how habits are built. That is how identities are formed. That is how lives are changed. So do not despise the small beginnings. Do not underestimate the quiet victories. Every time you choose action over delay, even in the smallest way, you are moving closer to your goal. Success is rarely about massive action. It is about steady action. One step taken every day will take you further than 100 steps taken once. The drops of water may seem weak, but give them time, and they will carve mountains. There is a silent conversation that happens within you every time you make a promise to yourself. When you say, "I'll wake up early," or "I'll start exercising on Monday," or "I'll write every day," your mind listens. It records those words and waits for your actions to confirm them. When the actions align with the promise, something powerful happens. Your mind begins to trust you. But when they don't, when you fail to follow through, a different message takes root. One far more dangerous. It whispers, "I can't trust myself," and that single thought can poison everything. Self-trust is the foundation of confidence. Without it, no achievement feels solid, no progress feels real. You can deceive the world with words, but you cannot deceive yourself with inaction. Every broken promise, no matter how small, chips away at your integrity, and with each chip, your belief in yourself weakens. That is why so many people feel stuck, not because they lack ability, but because they no longer believe their own voice. When they set a goal, some part of them laughs bitterly, knowing they will not keep it. This erosion of trust does not happen overnight. It begins with small failures. You promise to start exercising on Monday, but Monday comes and goes. You say you will eat healthier, but the old habits win. Each time you do this, the inner voice grows louder, sharper, almost mocking. You never keep your word. At first you ignore it. You say, "I'll try again next week." But deep down, you feel the sting of betrayal, not from others but from yourself. Yet there is another path. The moment you decide to honor your word, not to the world, but to yourself, you begin to rebuild that broken trust. It does not require grand gestures. It does not demand perfection. It asks for one thing: consistency. When you force yourself to follow through, even when you are tired, even when it hurts, you send a new message to your mind. I do what I say. And that message becomes a truth that reshapes everything. Think of it like a relationship. If someone repeatedly lies to you, even in small ways, would you trust them? No. Trust is built through reliability. The same is true within yourself. Every time you act in alignment with your words, you strengthen that bond. Every time you keep a promise, no matter how small, you add another layer of credibility. Over time, that credibility becomes confidence, not the shallow confidence that relies on compliments or achievements, but the deep, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing, if I say it, I will do it. Imagine someone who decides, "I will walk for 10 minutes every day." It sounds insignificant, almost too small to matter. But they do it. Day after day, they keep the promise. At first, it feels like nothing has changed, but inside, something profound is happening. The inner voice, once doubtful, begins to soften. Maybe you can keep your word. Weeks pass, and the voice grows stronger. You are the kind of person who does what they say. That voice becomes a force that carries them forward, not just in fitness, but in every area of life. Why? Because the principle is universal. When you trust yourself in one thing, you trust yourself in all things. Consistency, then, is not just a habit. It is an act of self-respect. It is a declaration that your word matters, that you matter. When you live in alignment with your promises, you stop living in conflict with yourself, and that inner harmony becomes strength. The kind of strength that cannot be shaken by failure, because you know you will rise again. Do not underestimate the power of these quiet victories. They may not bring applause, but they will bring something greater, the certainty that you can rely on yourself. And in a world full of uncertainty, that is the most valuable thing you can possess. Most people believe that success depends on willpower, that invisible force that pushes you to act when you least want to. They imagine that the secret to consistency is sheer determination, the ability to grit your teeth and fight through resistance day after day. But this belief is the reason so many fail. Willpower is not infinite. It is a muscle, and like every muscle, it gets tired. If you rely on it for every decision, you will eventually burn out. Think about how many choices you make in a single day. From the moment you wake up, your mind is faced with decisions. What to wear, what to eat, when to start, whether to exercise or skip it. Each decision, no matter how small, draws from the same limited reserve of mental energy. By the time you reach the end of the day, the tank is empty. This is why people who plan to work out after work so often fail. They intend to go, but after a long day of endless choices, they simply can't summon the energy to decide again. It is not that they are weak, it is that they are human. The solution is not to become superhuman. The solution is to remove the need for willpower in the first place. Instead of waking up and asking, "Should I work out today?" make that question irrelevant. Instead of wondering, "What should I eat?" make the decision before the moment arrives. This is where rituals come in. Rituals are not rigid routines meant to restrict you. They are systems designed to free you from the constant burden of choice. When something becomes automatic, resistance dies. Imagine a person who meditates every day. They do not wake up and negotiate with themselves. They do not debate whether to do it or not. They simply sit at the same time, in the same place, every single day. Over time, it becomes as natural as brushing their teeth. There is no drama, no bargaining, no internal argument. The ritual kills the resistance. The action flows effortlessly, because the decision has already been made. The same principle applies to every area of life. Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Prepare your meals in advance. Schedule your most important work at the same time every day. Make the first step so easy that it feels impossible to refuse. When you design your environment in this way, you shift the weight from willpower to structure. You are no longer relying on bursts of strength to overcome inertia. You are creating momentum that carries you forward. This is why some of the most successful people in history live by strict routines. They understand that creativity, productivity, and mastery do not come from constant inspiration. They come from removing friction. They come from building a system so reliable that the mind no longer has to fight. When you depend on willpower, you live in conflict with yourself. Every day becomes a battle of, should I not? And every battle drains energy. But when you build rituals, you eliminate the battle altogether. There is no fight because the choice is no longer in question. You simply do what you always do. The power of this cannot be overstated. Consistency is no longer about strength, it becomes about design. This does not mean life becomes rigid or joyless. It means you are creating space for what truly matters. When the basics of your day run on autopilot, your mind is free to focus on higher pursuits. You are no longer wasting energy on trivial decisions. You are reserving it for the things that demand your full presence. Do not trust your willpower to carry you through life. It will fail you, not because you are weak, but because that is its nature. Instead, trust your systems. Build rituals that make the right choice the easy choice, that make action inevitable. When you do this, success is no longer about heroic effort. It is about quiet design. And that design will carry you further than sheer force ever could. At the beginning, the journey feels like a desert, long, dry, and mercilessly silent. You put in the work day after day, and the world does not clap for you. No applause, no sudden transformation, no visible change. This is the stage where doubt creeps in like a whisper. telling you that nothing is happening, that your efforts are meaningless. This is the stage where most people surrender. They turn back because the results do not come fast enough to soothe their impatience. But here lies a truth most fail to see. Growth hides before it reveals itself. The seed must rot in darkness before it breaks the soil. Consistency is not an act of passion, but an act of faith. It is the quiet, almost monotonous rhythm of doing the same thing again and again, not because the results are obvious, but because you trust the unseen law that governs all progress. Think of water dripping on a rock. At first, it appears foolish. What can a single drop do to something so solid? But over time, without fanfare, without noise, the rock bends to the persistence of water. That is the nature of consistency. It wears down resistance, shapes reality, and bends destiny to its rhythm. The principle is simple, yet it feels almost cruel in practice. The first steps are heavy because the ground beneath you is hard and unbroken. You give everything and receive almost nothing in return. The mind rebels, demanding immediate reward. But life does not pay wages for effort instantly. It rewards those who endure long enough for the invisible forces to gather. It is like compound interest, silent, steady, and slow at first, then unstoppable. Most people underestimate this power because they judge too soon. They look at their reflection after a week at the gym and see no difference, so they quit. They write for a month, gain no audience, and abandon the pen. They do not realize that the curve is deceptive, that the magic lies not in the beginning, but in the breakthrough that only persistence can unlock. Look at the life of those who have mastered this truth. Consider the fortunes of great investors. Over 80% of certain legendary wealth came after the age when most people think life begins to fade. Why? Not because the early years were wasted, but because compounding does not reveal its glory in the early chapters. It works in silence, building momentum so vast that, when it erupts, it feels like an overnight miracle. But it is not overnight. It is the reward of decades of quiet, boring, consistent action. The same law governs your habits, your skills, your relationships, your dreams. You do not become wise by reading one book. You become wise by reading every day until the words reshape your mind. You do not master an instrument by playing when you feel inspired. You master it by showing up when no one is watching, when your fingers ache, when the notes sound wrong. Progress loves boredom, because boredom is the proof that you are no longer driven by excitement, but by commitment. And commitment is the root of greatness. This is why you must learn to trust the process. It is easy to worship results, but results are delayed by design. They are not meant to appear at the start, because the start tests your sincerity. The world asks, "How much do you want this?" And it waits to see if you can endure the silence. If you can keep walking when the road feels endless, if you can keep planting seeds when the earth looks barren, you will witness something few ever see. The day when all those unseen efforts converge into something extraordinary. Consistency is the closest thing to magic that reality allows. It does not shout, it does not dazzle, it whispers and builds. At first, it feels like nothing. Then all at once, it feels like everything. That is the power of compounding, quiet, invisible, miraculous. Trust it. Stay with it. Your future is being built in the silence you are enduring today. Force yourself to be consistent. Not because it's easy, not because it feels good, but because your future depends on it. Show up when you don't want to. Do the work when no one is watching. Build the identity, honor the discipline, trust the small steps, create the rituals, and let the compound effect change your life. Because in the end, greatness is not about intensity, it's about consistency.